You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/daily clout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it is pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/daily clout and start your experience of transformation today.
Today we're going to be talking about wolves in sheep's clothing, or potential wolves in sheep's clothing. We are talking about 3 different subjects, okay? And those subjects are Russia banning Amnesty International, calling them an undesirable organization. Now, what does that mean in Russia? That means in the Russian Federation, if you're listed as an undesirable organization, you can't operate in Russia. As a matter of fact, you're outlawed, and anyone that works with you will get arrested. Now, you could have your opinions on the Russian Federation. I really don't have one. I know I don't see them as a threat to democracy, and I don't see Ukraine as the thin line holding them back, because quite honestly, if Ukraine can hold back Russia this long, we really have nothing to worry about. I don't think if they can't get through Ukraine, they're actually going to get through the rest of the West. It's idiotic. So we're going to talk about why did they ban them. Right now, Russia is saying that, look, these guys are propagandists. They're fomenting anti-Russia sentiment within our own country. They got to go. This is kind of a big deal because Putin's allowed them to operate there for a long time. But if you look at the history of Amnesty International and some of the activists that they have really propped up with the help of Human Rights Foundation, who runs the Oslo Freedom Forum, not to be confused with the Human Rights Campaign, which is the LGBTQ one, yeah, there's some questionable things. There's some activists that seem pretty conveniently subversive to Russia's sovereignty, in my opinion. As a matter of fact, I've met a lot of those activists at the Oslo Freedom Forum, which I used to teach a class at, and was booted from for a reason that's an interesting story. Hopefully we'll get to it tonight, but I have personal interaction with these people, from Pussy Riot to Kasparov to a lot of them, a lot of good people too. Actually, I met some really good friends there that I'm friends with to this day. But there's a lot going on there in that activist world, as you know now from the USAID exposés. That's very interesting. Personally, I think a lot of real criminals use human rights, the public human rights, the really celebrity human rights, to kind of mask what they really are, who they really are. There's someone I'm thinking about in particular. I'm not going to say his name because I need to have those receipts in front of me or I'll get sued. And he's a powerful billionaire, but he's also the one that got me kicked out of there. And it was a fun time. I really enjoyed it there. Some nice people, but there's a lot of money there at that Oslo Freedom Forum and the Human Rights Foundation, and there's a lot of connectivity with Amnesty International. So we'll kind of speculate today. We'll go into what we know about Amnesty, what's been researched. I've done my own research on it, but I've pulled some other people's research. Personally, I kind of got to go with the Russians on this one. I kick them out too. I wish we could kick them out of our country. Just so you know, Amnesty has declared that guns are a human rights crisis. The Second Amendment is a human rights crisis. We should have open borders. What was another? Oh, yeah, that's right. And Trump is a human rights crisis. Everything's a human rights crisis, I'm guessing, based on whoever pays Amnesty the most money. Because I've seen them attack Ukraine, and I've seen them attack Russia. Then I've seen them attack the West for not supporting their other causes because the West was paying too much attention to Ukraine. So it's, Amnesty, I think they're a bunch of dirtbags. And I think they're just a kind of like propaganda Medici type of army who goes to the highest bidder. But that's my opinion. We'll go into that. Second thing we're going to cover is our old friend, LaMonica McIver. Now, I've actually I've covered McIver. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, so Congresswoman McIver recently got into quite a little brawl at the ICE detention facility, I believe, in Newark, New Jersey. She claimed that she was just trying to do her duty, but it looks like on the video she's getting quite violent with these ICE officers. So she's now getting criminally charged. Alina Habba happens to be the Attorney General of New Jersey right now, who used to be Trump's lawyer, President Trump's lawyer. So this is interesting to me, not because of those charges or what she was doing. It's interesting to me because of what we've covered about Congresswoman McIver before. What was that? Well, Congresswoman McIver just came onto the scene in the fall. I believe she replaced the congressman that was there before her in a pretty quick, election. And somehow being brand new is already on several committees that are pretty important, like the Homeland Security Committee. What are they focused on? Chinese infiltration of our key seaside or maritime ports. One happens to be in her district. It's called Port Elizabeth or Port of Newark. It's a huge, huge seaport. You can see it when you're driving to like JFK Airport. It's just massive, one of the biggest ports on the East Coast. It sits in her district, and it also sits in Menendez's district, Congressman Menendez. Who's that? Well, you might know him because his father, the Senator Menendez, was just recently jailed for taking bribes from, I think, Bahrain in the form of gold bars. So that's kind of the two Congress people who run the districts that one of the key ports of the United States sits in. What's been happening at ports all across the United States is there's a company that's wholly CCP or Chinese Communist Party owned called ZPMC. ZPMC has been constantly under scrutiny because the cranes that they provide to all the ports, that decides what comes on and off boats. I mean, these cranes are massive. They could literally flip a boat. Well, what happened in the port of Los Angeles I believe, just several months ago, authorities actually found a transmitter on several of the cranes that looked like it was a kind of like a hotspot for the internet. Basically, what they assessed is someone else could control the crane. That's not the operator at the port of Los Angeles. This is a major, major security issue. But don't worry, because there's the Homeland Security Committee that LaMonica McIver sits on. And wait till you hear the clip that I had from my old show. But she just sits there on that committee, steering everyone's attention away from China onto other issues. And I think that's her whole job. So what will be interesting to see how it plays out in New Jersey is who's going to replace Congressman MacGyver. I guarantee they're going to have a lot of funding, and they're probably going to have a lot of CCP backing, which are one and the same thing. We shall see. Let's keep an eye on that. And finally, what the hell's going on at HHS, Health and Human Services? We're all happy and excited about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. I like a healthy America. You like a healthy America. But it's getting a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you. Recently, my wife, Naomi Wolf, was doing her own show, and she invited me on, so I took her up on it. And I gave my China updates and everything. But then she said, do you want to stick around? And do you want to talk about Casey Means, who apparently is the Surgeon General pick by Donald Trump to be the next Surgeon General? And I didn't even know who it was because I'm so focused on other things, and which was embarrassing. And she's like, honey, you got to know that stuff. I'm like, but then Casey Means, this name just started popping up everywhere. Then I saw there was this Laura Loomer, who I do respect as a journalist and an investigator. I think her and her team do great work, whether you agree with her or not. They always bring their receipts. That got my attention because when Laura Loomer really looks at something, I'm like, oh, okay, well, there must be something there. And then my wife did a wonderful Substack called The Imaginary Casey Means. And I look through her work. I don't always agree with my wife's work, but it's always well researched. It's always well sourced. This one was excellent. It just absolutely excellent. And it really got me thinking, like, well, what is going on? Who are these people? Where they come from? By these people, I mean Casey and her brother Callie Means. Callie Means, who is a White House appointee to HHS. There's a lot circling around them. And there's been some drama lately that if you saw the Political article, you'll know what I'm talking about, involving one of our own sponsors. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're just going to lay out some facts tonight. This is an ongoing story. I am going to have a special guest on next week who will talk more about this. So without much further ado, just remember, now more than ever, I actually feel like this country is in more danger. Granted, I'm so glad Donald Trump is at the helm, but there's a lot going on. There's so much to fix that there's going to be infiltrators. There's going to be opportunists. We have to keep an eye on them, and you may have to question, as we all do, people that you don't want to. You may have to look at people that it makes you uncomfortable to look at. I'm doing that right now because I don't want to find that some of the people we believe in, I'm not talking about MAGA people because I'm not looking at that right now. I'm talking about other people close to the administration. You don't want to believe that they could be driven by greed and corruption, but I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm an investigator, and I have to investigate everything, which means I have to look at everybody and everything, and that's what I'm doing right now. We'll see what we uncover. I'll let you know what I uncovered to some degree while I kind of check all my sources over and over. But I can't get my investigator mind off of these siblings, Casey and Callie Means, because just when I'm about to wrap it up, something new pops up. Just something is not sitting right with me about these two. From their army of influencers kind of shilling for them on the same script to, from what I can see, Callie Means' refusal to say anything bad about mRNA. It's weird, man. So we're going to go into that a little bit. And before we run the video, let me... actually, you know what? Anti-corruption, I see your comments. Hang in there. I'm going to get to your comments in a second. She's asking... And anti-corruption, by the way, well, let me just throw... Here we go. So She's right there. Definitely follow her. Anti-corruption. Do me a favor. Throw your Twitter account up on the chat, and I'll share that with everyone. But here's the deal. She's looked into them too. And by the way, anti-corruption really does great work. She's out there in the field. She's on her own. She's been arrested a few times. She's investigated Pfizer. She's awesome. And she's what makes this audience great are people like her. Also want to give a shout out to Ernie, my cousin. There she is. My cousin Ernie, a couple weeks ago, and he's on the chat right now. This guy. I'm out here in the Hudson Valley, and it's like the woods, right? And I'm always very vigilant, like when cars roll by this house slowly, because you only come down here if you need to. I mean, the nickname here is Hell's Acre. I mean, there's everything from bears to Hell's Angels. So unless you live here, you're not really rolling through. And I see this car kind of rolling through. And also, embarrassingly, all I had was a badminton racket because I was swatting at carpenter bees. And I'm like, can I help you? And it's my cousin Ernie, who I haven't seen in a few decades, man. And so what a nice visit, cousin Ernie. Great to see you and your wife, and great to reconnect. And thank you for being on this show since the beginning. It's been like 3 years, so I really appreciate it. Come on back anytime, but let me know next time, because if that wasn't a badminton racket, well, let's just say I would have popped your tires. But won't do that now that I know it's you. So great to see my cousin. Family's important, and it's good to reconnect with family any chance you get. So thanks, cousin Ernie. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm going to roll the first video. These videos meant to prep you for the show that we're about to see. So without much further ado, here we go. We're going to talk about Amnesty.
2022. Russia's prosecutor general says Amnesty is not only an undesirable organization, but also accuses it of being involved in global Russophobic projects. The ban means the global organization can no longer operate in Russia, and anyone who helps or supports Amnesty International faces potential prosecution. This includes sharing the group's reports on social media. Russia accuses Amnesty International of supporting Ukraine and promoting the political, economic isolation of Moscow. Amnesty International had not responded to the decision as of the publishing of this report, but other human rights groups came to its defense. Human Rights Watch tells Sky News the ban simply shows Russia's ambition to hide the truth about human rights violations. Amnesty International was established more than 6 decades ago with the goal to fight for human rights globally. Recently, it's published reports on Russia's war in Ukraine, which accused Moscow of crimes against humanity. Amnesty International has also criticized Russia for its suppression of free speech, which it says has led to thousands of people jailed. Russia's move against Amnesty International follows the sentencing of 4 journalists to prison for participating in a banned anti-corruption group founded by the late opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The journalists say they were prosecuted for simply doing their jobs and have vowed to appeal their sentences. Amnesty International's ban also...
2022 is defined by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and double standard.
This is how Amnesty International accuses the West of ignoring other countries while helping Ukraine. This statement was probably meant to attract the world's attention towards countries like Ethiopia, Myanmar, or Yemen. But what do we hear instead, and what's the call to action? To leave Ukraine in the wake of Russia's war while helping other countries? And while Amnesty International blames the US for double standards, does it still remember that every life matters in Ethiopia, Myanmar, Ukraine, or elsewhere? So let's not make victims of aggressions compete with each other. Victims are victims, no matter.
United will never be defeated.
All right, so I included this part in the clip because I want to show you that Amnesty is literally protesting the same things Mobilize and all them
anti-Muslim ban, to protest against the Mexican wall, all of these unconstitutional, unjust human rights violations. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to stand for it.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be people, refugees are welcome here. No hate, no fear.
What we would like is for the Supreme Court to act to make it a permanent, to reverse permanently, and for the Senate to act.
Everywhere we go, people want to know.
These people are idiots. That's my opinion.
United will never be defeated.
We're living in fear of someone who he creates these policies, they're fear-mongering, they're hate-mongering, and even though the circuit said that they can't do the ban, we're fearful. We're living in fear that people with green cards, people with visas are going to have to leave this country, and refugees will not be allowed in this country. And
just want to point out that is a common talking point that we've seen with Indivisible, with oh God, there's so many of them, with Antifa, with all of these Refuse Fascism, the podcast, that they're deporting green cards and the Trump administration is deporting citizens. Not true. Total BS. Most of these people are getting their talking points from MSNBC or the podcast called Refuse Fascism, which I really should dedicate a whole episode to. These people are insane. But it's amazing how much they believe it. And I know this because I live part-time in Salem, Massachusetts, and they have mobilized events all the time over there. Anyways, I'll let you continue watching the same old protests with a different side. This one's brought to you by Amnesty. The others are brought to you by the DNC, Indivisible, or whatever hell other .org is going to pop up.
in the middle of the largest global refugee crisis ever.
We've got children and women using.
So this one I put on because I want you to pay attention to what Cub Bearson says up here. Reminder that this man, Labor Councilor Ricky Jones, cheered on by Amnesty International, calling for Nazi fascists, aka white people, to have their throats cut, still hasn't gone to trial nearly a year later. There's more chance of me going to jail for posting about this. You're not kidding. And by the way, hat tip to Cub_Bearson for posting that. Forgot to put his citation up, but I will take care of that. So yeah, he's not kidding though. Watch us.
Those trains destroying the submarines. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut their throats and get rid of them all. I just want to say thank you all. I'm going to leave it now. And free, Palestine, free, Palestine, free, Palestine. Thank you. God bless you all.
So weigh in on this. I never understand why in these protests you'll see, like this guy just said, basically, you know, the Nazis, the fascists, the white people, we should cut their throats. And he's surrounded by white people who are cheering him on. I put a post out on X. I hope you guys got it, but I kind of I manipulated the Chick-fil-A sign, and I had the cows holding signs that didn't say eat more chicken. It said eat more beef. And I said white liberals. I don't get it. Maybe it's like it's a game to them. So sorry. I just wanted to give you some context.
Human rights activists have slammed the decision of Amnesty International to support the decriminalization of prostitution. Many campaigners criticized the proposal, which aims to protect the human rights of sex workers, saying decriminalization would only benefit pimps and brothel owners. The group has defended its decision, which comes after 2 years of research, saying it's the best way to reduce risks for prostitutes.
Look, prostitution is not a human right, but sex workers have human rights. They have the right to safety, to health care, to be free from trafficking, exploitation, and force. And that's what we are about. That's what we're trying to remedy with this policy.
The Coalition Against Trafficking in Women argued that Amnesty's position was incomprehensible and would lead to increased rates of trafficking and abuse. Amnesty said it would call on countries to ensure sex workers were protected from violence and exploitation.
Okay, well, there you go. There is my summary on Amnesty via video. So, look, every organization has their problems, but I'm probably not going to go too deep into Amnesty. I mean, I've always found them to be corrupt. And fun fact, back when I was in the clearance world, if you had worked for Amnesty or Greenpeace, you really couldn't get a clearance. So I always found that interesting. But I do want to go over some facts. This comes to us from Influence Watch, which is a nonprofit who, I've done some work for them in the past. It's a Capital Research Center is the name of them. But influencewatch.org, I will throw the link in the description. But Influence Watch is saying the following about Amnesty International. Okay, Amnesty International is non-government let me put this on the screen because this is actually a really good site. I really like these guys. Okay, here we go. Okay, and we should be sharing that. Christ. All right, here we go. There we go. Okay, good. All right, so, and they go into what they are. So what I like about this site, and by the way, you could find it at influencewatch.org, they always bring the receipts, which is good, but they give you this is how I do due diligence, actually, is, you give an overview of what you're looking at, their history, short history, but this is what actually a targeting package would look like in the intelligence world. That's why I really like this site. Amnesty International, it's NGO, and they actually came out of London. I didn't know that. You see over here on the right-hand side, you get their website, where they're located, their status, their tax ID, which you can use to look up on the IRS nonprofit search. All right, so in recent years, AI USA, Amnesty International USA, has pushed for liberalized immigration and refugee policies, protections for extremist political demonstrators, the abolition of the death penalty, enactment of stringent gun control laws, and an end to mass incarceration. Mass incarceration, definitely a term, if you probably heard if you have any kids in college. Mass incarceration. That's why we got to open up all the prisons, apparently. Still being pushed. They've petitioned for the federal government to create a government-controlled single-payer healthcare system, i.e. socialized medicine. They're probably cheering on that. They think Luigi Mangione, who is, not even been tried yet, but they're probably going to say he's a martyr or whatever if he gets a death penalty. Hopefully that case takes a long time because it's a long case. No one's presumed that this guy's innocent, which is a problem. But anyways, so they're pushing for socialized healthcare. Basically all the things they push for: tear down our borders, ruin our sovereignty, and move us towards global communism. Okay, and that's what I've noticed about Amnesty for a long time. There's their history. I won't go into it, but let's go into some of the programs. So even The Economist, who's not exactly a bastion of sovereignty, nationalism, and populism, noticed that they had shifted their priorities away from the defense of named individuals locked up by their government and instead towards a large number of broad issue-based policy campaigns, which actually align with the DNC and a lot of the globalist elites. The Economist article quoted then Amnesty International Secretary General Irene Khan as she defended the organization's shift away from focusing on individual cases and towards systemic change. And, Autumn, what does systemic change mean? What does that translate into? You guessed it. It means communism. Tear down the system, change it all. Change the system. It's the same thing. Okay. All right. So, so they've shifted away from focusing on, freeing, Snowden or whatever to changing the system, getting rid of mass incarceration, whatever. So Amnesty's USA priority, I Welcome campaign supports refugees and illegal immigrants. In 2016, Amnesty International USA argued that the U.S. was not doing enough to treat refugees and immigrants with compassion and claimed to have contributed to President Barack Obama's decision to substantially increase refugee admissions. So they're basically saying, Influence Watch is basically saying, Obama was influenced by them. Somehow I doubt it. I have a feeling he probably underwrites a lot of them. But yes, he probably used them as an excuse to change his policy. Other priorities seek to support protesters and other individuals the organization identifies as being targeted by government officials. Under this campaign, Amnesty International claims to have helped defend protesters trying to stop the construction of domestic energy conduit known as the Dakota Access Pipeline by force. I call this eco-terrorism. Interesting about the Dakota Access Pipeline, the people that didn't help stop that were the Shakopee Nation over there in Minnesota. And everyone in that tribe gets $85,000 a month. I was there at Mystic Lake Casino talking to some of the people from the Dakotas, some Native Americans, and they were like, yeah, no, they sent water and shovels, but they never contributed their millions and millions of dollars. So that's really interesting. Another interesting thing is I remember back in the 80s, there was this case with Friends of the Earth, and Friends of the Earth was trying to take down actual nuclear power plants. Well, we did this study in my intelligence training. As it turns out, Friends of the Earth, with a few cutouts, was being funded by OPEC to take out nuclear facilities, meaning they were taking out the competition. Idiots. Oh, yes, the Weather Underground. Good point. Hey, by the way, Autumn, if you had an update you wanted me to give, I don't have time to really get into the details of what you sent me, but if you want to call in, you can call in. I'll put you on speaker and you can tell the audience, because you do have my number. You are one of the inner circle of investigators out there. We have a little army, and she's one of the key people in it. So keep an eye on things. So if you want to call in, feel free to. You've got my number. I won't give out your number, but I will put you on speaker and you can address the audience. If not, I will make sure I get to that on an episode tomorrow or the next day. Your choice. I know it's late, so all right. So good point by Autumn. Amnesty International affiliate with Acorn, remember those guys, and Weather Underground from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Yes, total eco-terrorists, man. I mean, these are the kind of people, they started by putting huge was like the stakes into the trees so the chainsaws would break, and of course they killed a lot of lumberjacks. Then it went into all out like blowing things up. What's interesting is the same people that funded these Weather Undergrounds and all that affiliated with Amnesty are the same ones that were and have been funding the Tesla takedown protests which blow lithium battery cars up, thus polluting the environment more so. Okay. All right, so they go on and on. Basically, like every nonprofit, I think Amnesty may have started as a good idea, maybe I think a lot of people that join it or support it, like the mom and pops, some of my in-laws, like they really believe in this stuff, but they only know what the legacy media tells them. So be patient with those people. Better to kind of educate them slowly than have them, form another crazy party. But yeah, Amnesty is kind of like it's like the OG of like propaganda against sovereignty and populism, nationalism, populism. Like they're like the originals, totally undermining the things that we hold dear as if you're a nationalist and you're populist like I am, or an American. So lobbying activities, really interesting. There was a hearing this week where they were talking about several lobbying activities, not directly associated with Amnesty, but how the lobbyists for these big nonprofits actually get paid by taxpayer dollars to promote programs or remove laws that would protect us or that would attack us. So we double pay to have these people attack us. So back to the point, anti-Western bias, definitely. Look, I think the big thing with Amnesty International is they are tearing down the idealistic borders of the world. Okay. So you have lawfare, regulatory warfare, tearing down the actual borders of countries, removing the sovereignty. You have idealistic warfare where 1619 Project, they're removing the history. If you remove the history of a country, you remove its identity. Okay, then you have Amnesty International, who is pushing programs to ensure those borders stay down, to ensure those boundaries on the map are erased, to ensure that everything that makes us American or Peruvian or Mexican or Chinese or Russian or English are removed so we can all be one world, which is easier to rule. That's why communists want one world with no borders. It's easier to rule. That's why communists want to take away state rights, state sovereignty, because if you have a centralized government where all the power lies, where the Democrats have been trying to get everything to, it's easier to conquer instead of having to conquer 50 sovereign states. It's very simple. So they're just part of that. I'll let you read the rest of it, but pretty much they've also leveraged their reputation to try to kind of hold certain governments hostage. And you'll see some of the smaller governments will cave to the pressure of Amnesty, but I don't know. I think Russia probably had enough of them. Russia's been dealing, not to sympathize with Russia. I don't care about Russia. I don't care about Ukraine. Honestly, I don't care about either one of them. What I do care about is our money going there and not going there anymore. What I do care about is that regional conflict not dragging us into World War III. But I will say this. If I were in charge of Russia, I certainly wouldn't let them operate that long. Okay, because it's literally like telling the propagandists, come into my country and undermine my people, undermine my people's belief in our nationalism. You got to get these people out. I wish we could get them out of our country, but then again, I'd hate to get rid of free speech, so it's a conundrum. All right, so that's it for now. This is, again, not a big coverage of it, but we will be looking at Amnesty, not deeply, but we will go into Human Rights Foundation. I can't go into too much detail right now because I want to set it up where you can really enjoy it, but I will say this. When I mention Human Rights Foundation, who's closely aligned with Amnesty International, here's the quick story. Long time ago, I used to teach a course called The Art of Escape. Okay, my buddy, he formed this out of San Francisco, so I go out there and I would teach people certain tactics, combatives, that sort of thing. Eric would teach him lock picking. He had some cooler things, I personally thought, but I teach them how to disguise themselves. The whole point is you're teaching them how to get out of a hostage situation, from picking locks to setting up cache sites to everything, disguise while we're chasing them. And we get invited to the Oslo Freedom Forum. And I was teaching a course out there called How to Spy on the Spies. Really cool course. Well, right before I went out there, I got a request as a private investigator to go serve a subpoena in Aspen. So I did. And that subpoena was to be served to one Bill Browder. He's the author of Red Notice, claims to be Putin's worst enemy, whatever. All of a sudden, it's like I see this Browder guy everywhere. Well, finally, the second Oslo Freedom Forum, I see Bill Browder, getting some food, and I introduced myself, and I told him, I said, hey, look, man, I'm the guy that served you in Aspen. No hard feelings. It's, due process in this country. So you accused my client of this. I serve a subpoena. I have no skin in the game. That was it. Oh my God. I will definitely inoculate the emails, but the emails I got from the Human Rights Foundation, saying I was serving dictators, blah, blah, blah. Like I was serving a freaking subpoena. And so it's a good story. So I don't want to ruin it by just telling you about it now, but it's an interesting story. And there's a lot of crossover with everything from a China human rights group to Garry Kasparov to Pussy Riot to the Daily Beast. I mean, it was a who's who out there. It's a long story, and it kind of overlaps with when I met Naomi. And there's even some Fusion GPS in there too. It's crazy story, and it's not what you think. So I do want to write that up in a way that A, doesn't get me in legal trouble, but B, lets you understand the gravity of it. It's an interesting story. So that's what happened to me, and that was my crossover with them. But yeah, I did meet all these different protesters, and look, I'll be honest with you, like the Pussy Riot people and some of the other activists, a lot of them are real activists. Pussy Riot, they just seem like kind of like party animals. But the point is, like, a lot of them tend to be unwitting in what they're really being used for. And I would just encourage you to look at, for instance, the history of the guy in charge of the Human Rights Foundation. His name is Thor Halvorson from Venezuela. I'll just leave it at that. He's also the one that wrote me the nasty email, which I'm going to share with you, not tonight, but I will share with you. I'm going to make a whole episode of this. I've been sitting on this since like 2014. Okay. And I really like his brother. His brother's a real cool guy. So this doesn't extend to his brother, but I think Thor's an asshole. So, all right, that aside. So that's where we're at. We're gonna check in on this story. We're gonna see where it goes. If anyone has done any work on Amnesty, I welcome you onto this show. Just send me your report first. Make sure it's well sourced. And always happy to include people to, talk about what they found out. And by the way, Autumn, you can hop on if you want. So if you want to, just give me a call. Make sure my ringer's on, okay? And I'll put you on speaker. It's up to you. If not, you can come on this week, because I know Autumn's been doing anti-corruption's been doing a lot of work, and she always has some really interesting reports. I know. And by the way, Autumn, you might want to wait on the update you sent me about the meanses until next Wednesday. I'm going to have Dr. Henry Ilion, my old friend. We're going to be talking about them because he's been really, really hammering, putting out a lot of truths on what he's found in this Surgeon General situation. All right, so that's enough about Amnesty. You guys ready for more? Well, before we go for more, make sure you check out our other sponsors, The Wellness Company. Love The Wellness Company. And this actually segues really well into the mean story. The Wellness Company, actually I'll save it, but basically if you go to Politico, look up Wellness CEO and Callie Means, read the article or, afterwards, whatever. Really interesting that this happened. But that aside, what's really great is you see this kit right here. This kit is awesome. This kit has it all. It has everything you need to get through any sort of weird emergency. Also, the blue kit has everything. I'm trying to look for mine right now, but the blue kit, which has the doxycycline, which I really like the blue kit. I do have the black kit here. This is for like major emergencies, for like a real contagion breakout. What I like about the emergency wellness kit is my dog had 20 freaking ticks on him when I went to Salem. 20 ticks. He barely goes outside from up here in the Hudson Valley. Okay, which is pretty close to the Carey Institute for Ecosystem Studies, where I have reported before that's where Bat One Health is. That's also one of the Dajik 11 labs, 20 minutes from my house. 20 ticks. And yes, I know we have to do a special on ticks and Lyme disease, because it's not, there's just something weird about that many ticks, because there were so many ticks on him. Like, my son's like, oh my God, I just pulled out a tick. He didn't even know what it was. It was so fat. And when spring started this year up here in the Hudson Valley in New York, like, you could walk into your house without even touching grass. You'd have 5 ticks on you. It's weird, man. And they're hard to kill too, unless you have a pair of pliers so they can just squeeze them. 20 ticks on my poor dog. Well, I did some research and I found out you can actually give doxycycline to dogs. Did you know that? Make sure you research how. I actually called the wellness company and I asked for their advice. They wouldn't give it to me because they didn't have a veterinarian, but they did encourage that I looked at some websites. I said, these ones, I said, those look like good ones. So they're very careful, very responsible. But yeah, but me and my dog were taking the doxycycline. And what's nice about the kits is they give you enough of everything. It's all pre-prescribed in your name legally. They check your allergies to make sure you're not allergic to anything they're prescribing. So you do a telehealth thing, then you get your kit. And, you know, if you're allergic to something, say in the contagion emergency kit, they'll send you the alternative that you're not allergic to. So I like it. It's not as fast as like these online, you know, prescription pill factories, but at least you know your stuff's not coming from Singapore, and at least you know you're not going to die of a brain aneurysm when you take it, because they actually have real doctors checking you out, making sure this is the right mix of things for you that you can then have on hand in your car, in your attic, in your shed, in case there's a breakout or there's a major emergency. You got your medicine right there under your arm. So scan that QR code and go to dailyclouthealth.com and definitely get 10% discount. You are really going to like everything at the Wellness Company. I really love the Wellness Company. They have everything I need. And they get my buffalo organs and all that. And I just really, I actually know some of the people there, as a lot of the doctors. I just really like that company. I always feel very confident that the advice I'm getting from them is working. And it always has. When I have a problem, I'm actually calling them. I scrapped the one medical, whatever, telehealth. Now I've got the Wellness Company because they offer telehealth as well. So scan that QR code or go to dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code dailyclout, or you can use promo code everything. Got to update that graphic to get 10% discount, and let them know you heard about them on this show or from Daily Clout, because I'm part of Daily Clout. They're doing good work, and they're constantly getting attacked by competitors and big pharma, because this is where you go to be self-sufficient in your medical and health needs. Great company. Can't say enough about them. So scan the QR code or go to dailyclouthealth.com. Use promo code dailyclout. Get 10% off. Okay.